plants will take care of you if you take care of them. And that is a quote that I have lived by for the last few years. And it really hits very deep for me because I have taken care of these plants and they have brought me so much opportunity and so much wealth and abundance in my life. Welcome to the Rooted and Growth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to cultivating personal growth, digging deep, and blossoming into the best version of ourselves. I had this weird feeling come over me when I published the first episode where it really didn't feel real. Like, I was like, wow, I am officially a host of a podcast. Like, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it has not sunk in yet. It's a very gloomy day if you can see, if you're watching this on other platforms. And I typically don't shoot content on days like this. Honestly, most times when it's gloomy and cloudy, I kind of recluse and just don't do anything. I just take it as a day of rest because I don't like how the lighting looks in my content typically. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to change that narrative because I can still do a podcast. I can still shoot content, even on days where it's not sunny and all the beautiful lighting is coming into my home. But I was like, you know what? I think most people don't know my story. Like, I've talked about it on my platforms. I've gone into it a little bit, but I thought it would be good and appropriate to share my story of how we got here today. And I hope it inspires you to not be afraid to share your story because your story could be someone else's survival guide. I remember seeing that quote and was like, I will no longer be ashamed or scared to share my story, even if I think it's embarrassing or even if I don't like some of the aspects of what has gotten me here today. I'm going to share it because people need to know that they're not alone and they could be going through the same thing, or maybe their story is not even as bad, you know? So let's start. My story starts, I would say, during the pandemic, where a lot of us, during that time, it was a very sad time. I was living in San Antonio and I was in a relationship at the time, and me and my ex were living together. And I think the pandemic did a lot for the entire world, outside of making people sick and having people unfortunately pass away from COVID. I think that us having to be stuck in the house really had us looking at ourselves and figuring some things out. I know a lot of people probably were formulating ideas or had ideas they were sitting on and started to think of ways that they could turn those ideas into an actual thing, especially if they felt they were going to survive the pandemic, because I think that was a very scary time. We were all feeling as though, we hope we don't get COVID, we hope we don't get sick, we hope that we can just survive and make it into 2021. And so for me, in my situation, I felt that it was a very hard time for me. In fact, probably one of my darkest times, because my ex and I, we were pretty much going through a breakup, but still having to live together. My family was in Dallas, and again, I was in San Antonio, so I couldn't see them. I wasn't able to see my mom, who was, bless her heart, she was very scared about getting COVID. Everyone in their household was pretty much separating themselves and not interacting because everyone was just scared. It was just a scary time. And for me, it was scary because I felt like I was going through this breakup alone. I really didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I really didn't even want to break up with my ex at the time. I was trying to hold on to that relationship so hard. And during the breakup, I again was going through a very dark time where I just needed a positive outlet. I needed something to, shift my focus to, because not only could I not see my family, I actually caught COVID, during 2020, and, going through a breakup. And I was just like, I need just a glimmer of hope, just something. And I remember being on social media, and at the time, I wasn't really into plants. Like, I had a few in my home, but I wasn't really just like heavy into them. But my timeline at the time, I would, follow people that would inspire me. They had, beautiful lifestyles, or they had all these amazing things going for them. And I would follow them because it would inspire me. Well, then my timeline really started to make me feel bad about myself and make me feel as though I wasn't where I needed to be. And it was just like a really toxic thing to get on social media and see that. But there would be these little glimmers, from time to time that would show people and their beautiful homes with like their plant aesthetics. And every time I saw a plant aesthetic, people just having these like beautiful, lush green scenery in their home, I just felt so warm and I felt like so positive, and I just wanted to hold on to that feeling, especially during that time. And I said, you know what? Maybe that's it. I'm going to be a plant parent. I'm going to be like a serious plant parent, especially again during this time. We didn't really have much to do, right? So, the plant niche and like getting into plants was really heavy in 2020, I would say. I mean, there's people obviously, doing it before, but I'm pretty sure there was a huge explosion of people getting into plants because it was just, seeing this green, inspiring, living thing in your home and just wanting more of that feeling. And I remember when I started my plant account on Instagram, at the time I had named myself Botanical Brit, and it was just going to be a Instagram account dedicated to plants. And I wasn't, you know, feeling as though I would have to worry about anything. Honestly, it was just going to be like my place to release and escape and just really be in it with my plants, and really I wanted it to be a virtual diary of me learning how to take care of plants, of me growing in my plant parenthood journey. And that's what it became. But what I didn't realize or take into account was how many people would want to catch on and follow my journey or even ask for my advice. I mean, I'm like, I am a novice. Like, why are you asking me for advice on how to grow something? You know what I mean? Like, it was very interesting to, experience that. And I would probably say that was my first time really even experiencing what it felt like to, I guess, what is now would be like an influencer, because I would get a lot of engagement. Eventually I started getting brands that would reach out to me. But again, I was just focused on getting a plant, figuring out how to grow it, how to, keep it alive, and just showing that on my Instagram as my own personal thing, not, again, really thinking about anyone else. Although I knew that was obviously a factor, like just people could land on my picture or my video or whatever, but it just wasn't my focus. And so that happened and I grew my plant. It's funny to think about now, but I grew my plant collection from like a few to 100 in less than a year. I mean, I really went hard because I just love the feeling of getting a new plant. I love the feeling of putting it somewhere in my home and just like watching it grow and seeing all the new growth happening and just learning about it and going through all of the motions of what we feel like as plant parents when we get plants. And even some of the downsides, like, learning about overwatering because I nearly killed my first monstera because of that, learning about pest, learning about just these different aspects of plant parenting. So that happened. And, by 2021, I was like, okay, I'm going to stop playing with my own potential. And I've always felt that I was really good at social media. Not that I was so much an expert, but I would always have people ask me how to do this or how to do that on social media because they would see me posting, just even previous to me starting my plant journey, they would just see me posting and I guess growing, through social media, and they would ask me, and that always was in the back of my head. And I was like, okay, what can I do in 2021? I have this opportunity. I have survived the pandemic. What can I do to really make 2021 a really good year for me? And what came to mind, an idea popped in my head to become a social media consultant. And as a social media consultant, what I was thinking, where my mind was at was, a lot of people made it out of 2020. A lot of people made it out of the pandemic. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses closed down because they didn't have the social media presence that they needed to be able to shift to an online, thing, as people weren't able to physically go into a store or a business or whatever. And I was like, I feel like I would always have clients, because who isn't trying to grow a business on social media? Who isn't trying to learn about how to do that? And I guess that gave me the confirmation that I needed to just pursue it. And I did. I started a social media business, so it became Branding with Brit. I created another page on Instagram called Branding with Brit, and I was just teaching about different, Instagram tips and tricks, and I was gaining clients. I would do like one-on-one calls. I also started taking on clients and handling their social media accounts. So I would post for them on their behalf. I would, figure out like marketing strategies and growth strategies and ways to really take their Instagram accounts to the next level. And to my surprise, it really blew up. I mean, I had so many clients and I was making a lot of money and it was great, but I had so many clients and I was doing it on my own. And so, as great as it was, I was really starting to feel the burnout even faster. I mean, I started that business in January of 2021 and pretty much ended up ending it in like August or September of 2021. Like, it did not last long because I just felt I'm really good at social media, but I don't like love to do this for other people. I have shown to myself and proven to myself that I can, but I don't like love it. And I had to really be honest with myself and really be aware of the burnout feelings that I was having, the irritability, the just not feeling fulfilled, not even wanting to do it anymore, and struggling with that because I had clients that I felt were relying on me, but it did not get me excited in the morning. And so to backtrack, during this time, I also got into a program called Tulsa Remote, where they basically pay you $10,000 to move to Tulsa and live there for a year and just grow and thrive and, help to stimulate their economy without taking away their jobs, because they offer it to people that have remote jobs or that were entrepreneurs. And I was an entrepreneur. And so I got into the program and I was really excited because I felt like I was going to have a new start, a fresh start, coming out of the relationship. I was going to not necessarily reinvent myself, but just show that I can do it on my own. I can do life again on my own, especially after having done life with someone for 5 years, living together, sharing finances, like all of that. It was kind of like I forgot that I could do that on my own, and I really had to show myself that I could. I had to get away from the situation to be able to heal, because living together while we're broken up was not working. It was not helping neither one of us heal and just get over each other. And I was just like, this is honestly super divine. I mean, in retrospect, I was looking at the way that my life happened during that time. And the crazy thing is that my ex and I both applied to the Tulsa Remote program, but I was the one that got in. And I felt like that was some kind of divine intervention for me to just, again, continue on my journey, doing it alone, healing, and doing what I needed to do to just grow and get to the next phase of my life. And so when I moved to Tulsa, I actually purged, I would say 90% of the plants that I had in San Antonio, all of those ones that I had accumulated. I purged them because I think the energy that I put into them to get through the hard times, once I looked at them before I moved, they reminded me of that. And I didn't want to bring that energy into my new home in Tulsa. And I felt at that time that they did what they needed to do for me in my life at that point in time, and that it was okay to sell them and give them to people that, would carry on and love them the same way that I did at one point in time. But I just felt like it was time to purge those plants. So I went to Tulsa with about, I don't know, 15 or 20 plants and restarted my collection again, all while healing, all while growing and really getting into my own personal growth journey. And during that time, I really, I would say, went through it. I mean, I was happy to be in a new environment and be brand new. Basically, no one knew who I was. I could recreate myself, I can reinvent myself, I can be whoever I wanted to be because none of these people knew me prior to. And I love that feeling. And so, even I guess with reinventing myself, obviously, I went through some healing and it was hard. I mean, I sat many nights and many days just crying, just purging all of those emotions, those feelings, really just sitting with myself. Because I think a lot of times when we're going through hard things, we want to numb ourselves. And I was definitely numbing myself, just going out and drinking. Obviously, in my new friend and social groups, I was just doing whatever I could to just like numb the feeling of obviously the heartbreak that I was feeling and the struggle that I was having with like the emotions that were coming up. And I definitely, again, sat with myself because I felt like that was important to just like sit with myself, sit with my emotions, really feel, because that's the way that we heal is feeling. And I think a lot of people probably don't even get that. Most times we just want to numb ourselves because we don't want to feel. But there is power in feeling and like releasing all of those emotions. And I just had to do that for myself. And I did that for a year. And so again, during this time in Tulsa, like I said, I had the social media consulting business and was healing on my own personal growth journey, still accumulating plants, all of that. And I ended up hiring a brand strategist because I wanted to, at the time, I wanted to learn how to scale my business so I could be able to handle it. At least that's what I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to take on more clients and just not feel so burnt out and stretched to my capacity, past my capacity, really. And so I hired this brand strategist and she was great. Honestly, she was a genius and she really helped me. I think without even knowing, she helped me to understand that this is actually not what I wanted to do. I mean, we had many talks, and what she noticed was in our talks, I would somehow get on the subject of plants. Like, we will be talking about social media stuff, and she's coming up with systems and processes of like how to scale the social media consulting business, but I would be talking about plants out of nowhere, just on a tangent. And she started noticing that and was like, you know what? You really talk about plants a lot, basically. And maybe you should do something with that. And I was like, I don't even know what I would do with that. I mean, I do love plants. They have helped me heal tremendously in the last year. But I don't know what I would do in the realm of plants. Like, I just love them. And she was like, you know what? You talk about them so like freely, like it just oozes out of your mouth. And basically through all that conversation that we were having and just kind of even shifting the strategy to maybe going on a route of something involving plants, she ended up basically kind of daring me to get on TikTok. And at the time, I was not a fan of TikTok. I had actually never been on. I just thought it was for people that wanted to get on there and dance or do skits or just do anything that was the opposite of Instagram. I just felt like Instagram was so aesthetic and prestige and like TikTok was just like for kids. And obviously furthest from the truth, but she dared me to get on TikTok, basically dared me to start a plant account on TikTok, dared me to post 3 times a day on TikTok. Don't think about it, no strategy involved, because in my mind as a social media consultant, I'm going straight into strategy. I'm going straight into like growth strategies and like how to make that thing go from 0 to 100 real quick, right? Or 100K anyway. And she was like, don't think about any of that. I just want you to post. Don't even try and do the filters or nothing like that, because, you know, at the time, like filters were like a huge thing, I would say, on Instagram. And I was definitely using a lot of them. But she was like, just get on there and post. And I was like, okay, because as a Scorpio, I never back down from a dare. That's like very, you know, to a fault. Like, I just don't. I'm always going to rise up to a challenge. And I did that. I did that January of 2022. I started my TikTok plant account. And I was like, you know, I have the Instagram account, Botanical Brit, but I don't want to make it about me. Like, I really, you know, if I'm going to do this, I really want to make it about community and I guess helping people, because I've learned so much in my plant parenthood journey that I just want to really be that best friend that I wish that I had, because my ex wasn't really into plants like that. Like, he would almost kind of like huff and gruff when I brought in a new plant and I had to like start sneaking them in. But I was like, I want to be that best friend that people feel they have and that gets excited about their plants, gets excited about the growth and just all the things that we get excited about as plant parents. I want to be that best friend to anyone that comes across my page. And so I really want it to be about community, but I don't want it to be named Botanical Brit. And so she had thought of a name. Actually, we were brainstorming on different names, and what landed was Botanically Bee. And people thought, you know, in retrospect now, like even when people hear that name, Botanically Bee, they think the BE is like short for my name. But I always have to say that it's being botanical. It's being like engulfed in your plants. And that's what I wanted the feeling to be, you know, seeing that name. And so that's what landed. And I started the Botanically Bee account in January and posted 3 times a day, like she said. I really tried hard not to think of a strategy. I just thought of whatever would come to mind and whatever would stem from an education type of, you know, content background, or just like being inspiring, or just really being relatable too, because like I said, I didn't have anyone when I started in 2020 to just talk to about plants. And I was like, if I'm going to build this community, I just want that. I just want to be relatable. I want it to be like we can learn from each other, we can gain from each other, we're inspired, we share resources. Like, I just wanted it to be that. And I did that. That's what I did. And kid you not, in 2 weeks of doing that, my first video went viral. And it's crazy to think about, because as much as she said, don't think of any strategy, that's exactly what happened. Was I didn't think of a strategy on the video that went viral at all. It was a video of me going to Lowe's, and at the time, the Costa Farms Baltic Blue pothos was the must find plant. And people obviously didn't have them in their areas a lot of the times too. And so I ended up finding one, posting about it, and it went viral. I mean, my account went from like a couple hundred to 1,000, then 5,000, then 10,000, then 20,000. I mean, in a matter of like a couple of months, I had already grown to like close to 30,000 people. And I was flabbergasted truly, because even as someone that knew growth strategies and marketing strategies as a social media consultant for Instagram, I had actually never attained anything higher than like 6,000 followers on Instagram. Like, getting over 10K on Instagram was like the hardest thing for me. But on TikTok, it just happened. And I was like, wow. So obviously, like, even through all of that, I was still posting, but the video was still going viral. And again, I was living in Tulsa. And at the time, I had a friend, and he's still my friend, Luca, if he happens to listen to this podcast. Him and I were talking, and he was mentioning about this program called Builders and Backers, which he had been a part of. And Builders and Backers basically is like an idea accelerator, and they help to take an idea to whatever level it can grow to, because they see the idea as, a possible viable business. And he was like, you should apply. And I was like, what would I apply with? And at the time, I also in Tulsa, was trying to find my plant community. I was trying to really get in touch with people that were also into plants physically. And I hosted this event. It was a plant and sip with Brit, is what it was called at the time. And hosted this event where basically I just wanted to be all vibes. This vision that I saw of vibes was, plant parents getting together, doing plant parent things, drinking wine, vibing to music, having some charcuterie eats, like doing even some giveaway prizes, because I love doing giveaways all the time. And this vision came to life, and I did this event, and it was a hit. It was a huge hit because there was nothing like it in Tulsa. And he was like, you should apply with that idea. Like, you should apply. But I was like, I already did it. And he was like, it didn't matter. You should apply, because I think it would be a really great thing to, maybe see through. And I was like, okay, like, I'll apply. So I applied, and I ended up getting in with the idea of, hosting in-person events to bring plant parents together and build community and networking opportunities, all while learning and being educated about plants. And I was like, wow. And so they pay you $5,000 to basically get this idea off the ground. And with that $5,000, I did another event in Tulsa. Huge hit again, got news coverage. Like, it was great. And I learned a lot through Builders and Backers. Always super grateful for them, because they became my mentors. They really helped me to understand experimenting and really embrace it too. Just like thinking about everything as an experiment and not being afraid to try different things. And did that event. And again, all while in the background, still posting on social media, still, growing the Botanically Bee TikTok account. And I think even at this time, I had transitioned my Instagram account to Botanically Bee. So it was no longer Botanical Brit, it was Botanically Bee. And yeah, I just kept growing that. And then another opportunity came where Eventbrite had their first accelerator. And I was like, why not? Like, what is stopping me from applying with the same idea that I did with Builders and Backers, but on a grander scale, obviously, because Eventbrite was paying $10,000 and also giving mentorship. So I applied. It was a national accelerator, and I became one of the 5 finalists. And I was like, what is actually happening? And again, that got news coverage as well, just becoming a finalist, and, just amazing things for a Tulsan girl. So when I became a finalist and won, it was obviously super shocking. I was very emotional because 3 of the winners, we don't know who it was, but 3 of them had to be based off of public vote. And I was definitely in like the top 3 of the 5 highest public votes. Like, I was getting everybody to help me vote, you know, and then the other 2 would be personal choice. So that's how the winners, the finalists, were chosen. So somehow I made it, whether it be public vote or they chose me, like, I made it into the top 5. So it shifted from plant and sip with Brit to plant sip vibe, because I was like, that's what it is. We, people that love plants, love wine and good vibes. That's what it became. I ended up hosting my event through the Eventbrite Accelerator in Dallas, because that was like the thing that I wanted to differentiate from the previous accelerator, was expanding it to a new city. And so I did that in Dallas, and again, big hit. And it was obviously very scary doing that in a new city. Also, while that happened, literally a couple days before the event happened, my dog, Bentley, my little Yorkie poo that I had since he was 6 months old, he was, a little old man. He was like 12, I think, or 13. He ended up tragically passing away like 2 days before the event. And obviously, I was devastated. I was a wreck, but I had to pull it together, and nobody even knew, outside of my family and my friends, because I didn't show that in the event. Like, I really had to keep the vibes up and just really be present. But that was very hard as well, during that time. But the event was successful. And again, all while that's happening, still growing on social media. So I don't even know where I was at with my follower account on social media by this time. I would say probably like 50,000, maybe. We'll say it like that. And the year went on. I started getting a lot of opportunities. I started getting brand deals. I started getting a lot of recognition, and it was a really great year. 2022 was a really great year for growth and acceleration and all of these amazing opportunities for, new business ventures. I actually started becoming a plant consultant in 2022. I just wasn't introducing myself as such, but, I was offering plant consulting services as well. So that was all happening in 2022. And then in 2023, I decided to move back to Dallas because I was feeling as though like Tulsa had done what it needed to do. I definitely went through my healing journey. I went through my personal development journey. I started businesses and obviously was having amazing growth on my socials with Botanically Bee. And I was like, I think I'm just ready to move on and maybe not be big fish in little pond anymore, but be little fish in big pond, because Dallas is a huge city. And I was like, I really want to, move back to Dallas because I don't desire to live anywhere else right now. So I, again, packed up everything. I did bring most of my plants from Tulsa to Dallas. I sold some, but I brought most of them and moved back to Dallas into this beautiful home and was like, okay, life starts again here. And so that's what happened in 2023. Had a great year as well. Again, a lot of great opportunities, a lot of brand deals. All of this is happening, but I think all of this was happening alongside of me feeling as though I'm still not where I want to be. Like, I was feeling struggle and lack, and that I wasn't moving as fast as I wanted to. Even though I was moving pretty fast, I just still didn't feel personally that I was where I needed to be in my life in the area of success. And so I was really starting to feel that in October of 2023. And I was having breakdowns. I was crying. I was just like, God, universe, if this is the path that I'm supposed to be on, if I'm supposed to be a content creator, if I'm supposed to continue, please give me a sign, because I'm feeling as though I'm just like ready to give up on this and go back to the job world, because I have been an entrepreneur for 8 years now. And I was just like, maybe this actually isn't what I'm supposed to do. Maybe, maybe I'm being delusional. I don't know. And I kid you not, after that breakdown, after talking to mentors, even after inquiring, to people, like if they had any job opportunities, like, hey, like send them my way. Like, I was really considering going back into the job force, which is not an issue. But I just really felt as though I worked so hard to not have to work a job that I don't want to go back to one. So I got this sign from the universe, not even lying, 2 weeks after that happened. I got a sign by way of a brand partnership through Costa Farms. And it was a very full circle moment for me, because me starting out as a plant parent and obviously knowing about Costa Farms, seeing their plants in Walmart and Lowe's and, other places, I was like, it'd be really cool, to work with them in some capacity one day. I just used to always think about that, or like go visit their farm, or, go just, I was thinking about all the ways that it would be really nice to have an opportunity with them. And one day I got an email, or not one day, but after that breakdown, 2 weeks after, I got an email from Costa Farms about an opportunity. And at that time, it was like the biggest brand deal that I had had in 2023. And I was obviously very emotional. I'm a very emotional girl. Very emotional because I just felt like the universe like answered my prayers, and the universe showed me that I was worrying for nothing, that I should be more trusting and have more faith that things are working out even when I don't see them, or even when I don't understand why things are happening the way that they have to. So the brand deal happened. I did like a holiday campaign for them. And then not too long even after that, TikTok, Botanically Bee hit 100K besties. And it was like the best feeling in the world, because I would have never thought that I could grow such an amazing, large community as the BOCO, which is what we call ourselves. BOCO is short for Botanical Community. And that was named by somebody in the community when I first started on TikTok, when I was wanting to, grow the community, but also find a name that we can call ourselves. And it was just such a huge milestone, such a huge moment, because all of that work that didn't feel like work, it just felt like I was talking to my besties about plants and just educating them and, showing things that I had learned and wanting to help. All of that effort and content just like accumulated into that moment. And it was so special. So special that I kept the cork, because I, popped some champagne, obviously. But I kept the cork and put a date on it. And I said, I'm going to do this every time I hit a milestone. Obviously, I'm going to have some champagne to celebrate, but I'm going to write the date so I don't forget. And after that happened, also, I decided that I am no longer going to feel sorry about myself. I'm no longer going to question myself. I'm going to do the work. And what I meant by do the work was I'm going to record all of the inbound and outbound actions that happen, all of everything, so that I never forget what has actually transpired when I feel like nothing is actually happening. And started that in October of 2023, where I would literally write down everything, all the income that I made and where it came from, all the brand deals that happened, whether I reached out or they reached out, just whatever results were happening in October, November, December, I did that. And it was amazing to see, because it really helped me to understand that things are happening. Things are always happening. Sometimes we just forget them because we're so focused on what's not happening that we forget what actually has happened. And I didn't want to forget that anymore. And so January of 2024, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take it a step further. And I was listening to this podcast with Jay Shetty, and he was mentioning that you should once a week put something good that happened in a jar once a week, so that by the time the end of the year happens, you can go back in that jar, read all of them, and remember all the amazing things that happened that year. I remember that because I was like, I want to actually take that a step further, and I'm going to write down every single thing that happens in the week of my content creator journey, to help me to understand that I am aligned, to help me to remember the things that have happened, the accomplishments that I have had in the times where I feel as though things aren't happening fast enough, because I never want to feel what I felt in October of 2023. And I did that, and it's been an amazing year. I mean, we're in December of 2024 right now, and I haven't looked at all the things that have happened from January to now, but obviously I've recorded them and I've seen so much growth. I mean, at the top of the year, I think the BOCO, my online community on TikTok, started at a little over 100,000, and now we're at a little over 200,000. And I've had a lot of great brand deals happen. My largest one to date like happened this year with a major brand, and I've made a lot of great connections. I have joined, different platforms like PlantCon. I'm now the ambassador coordinator for PlantCon. After being an ambassador for 2 PlantCons, I became the coordinator of them now. And all of these other amazing opportunities that maybe I'll share. I'm trying to find a way to share it in a way where it doesn't come off boastful or, like, okay, girl, we get it. But I really do want to share it because I think everyone should do this exercise, especially coming into the new year of 2025. I really want people to do this exercise and just see how much has been accomplished without even remembering a lot of the things. I think it's just so important. And so that is how I got to where I'm at now. I mean, now I, again, have since moved from that beautiful house that I lived into, I would say my dream home. I am surrounded by so many windows. I have plants in every corner, plants everywhere. I have a lot of natural light that comes in here. I have this beautiful aesthetic that I've created and manifested. I have a huge backyard for my dog Berkeley that he gets to play in. He's outside right now, actually. I live, very close to my family now. And I have just taken on a new leaf. Even in the last week or two of doing this particular podcast, I've really had a lot of transformation. I've really had a lot of growth. I really had a lot of self-realization, just awareness. I mean, so much has happened off of wanting to hold on to the feeling of what plants have done in my life. And I'm trying not to get emotional, but when I really think about how plants have saved my life, how they have helped me grow, how they have gotten me from point A that I talked about at the beginning of this podcast to now, how they have helped me start businesses, how they have helped me connect to people that I would have probably not been able to, how they have helped me to establish myself in a community where I feel welcomed, accepted, where I feel like I found my tribe. Plants will take care of you if you take care of them. And that is a quote that I have lived by for the last few years. And it really hits very deep for me because I have taken care of these plants and they have brought me so much opportunity and so much wealth and abundance in my life. So, yeah, that's my story. That's how I have gotten to be who I am now, and all the things you may have seen or not seen through my stories and posts and content and things like that on social media. That is how I've become who I am. And my story is still unfolding. I think that's the most exciting part, is that 2025 isn't even here yet. And I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited to see what 2025 brings through this journey of being a plant mom, through this journey of being a content creator, an entrepreneur, a woman that has not found her way back to her old self, because I don't resonate with that anymore, but found a way to her better self. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I owe that to plants. So that's my story. That's this episode. And what I want to start doing in every episode is giving you some homework, because it's not just about me, it's also about you and how I can help you grow. And I want you to craft your story. You don't have to tell anyone, you don't have to post it on social media, but I want you to sit with yourself and I want you to write your story of how you got to where you are, whether it be good things, bad things, the milestones, the things that really stick out to you that were very pivotal in your journey to how you got to be who you are and where you are. I want you to write it, and then I want you to either read it out loud, or if you don't need to read it, if you already know your story, I want you to do a video diary of you telling your story. Because one of the beautiful things that happens when you tell your story is, one, you start to accept it because it's your story, and it's still a beautiful story no matter how ugly you think it is or how boring you think it is. But two, you start to heal and realize that your story is important, and your story is comprised of all of these different events and people and connections, and maybe even plants, if you're a plant parent listening to this, because I know a lot of plant parents can definitely relate to how plants have changed their life or helped them in their life. But you'll just start to realize that your story is important, and you will get better at telling it, because there's going to be a point in your life, if there hasn't been already, where you're going to have an opportunity to share your story, and it's going to inspire someone or so many people that you don't even know. And maybe even save their life or change their life or inspire them to do the same thing. That's how we create the ripple effect of good in the world, is just sharing our story and inspiring others to go out and just be. Just be. So that is this week's episode. I really hoped that you feel inspired, that you feel motivated, that you have a takeaway, and that you feel closer to me, because I want you to feel as though you know exactly who you're listening to, you know exactly why you're here, and that we are aligned for a reason, whether we know it or not. Let's take a deep breath. But I look forward to talking to you in the next episode. And as always, let's continue to dig deep and grow higher.